Donnie, what's up, brother?
How are you doing?
Glad to be doing this.
Yeah, it's good to finally meet you face to face.
It's pretty interesting. My chair's being weird here. Social media is really powerful because you connect with all these people, and then when you finally meet them in person, it just forges that connection even more.
Yeah, social is, it's a conundrum, man.
It is.
You know, it's everyone knows the negativities around it. Everyone knows that we live on our phones now, which is but it's nice to see you face to face and hear your voice.
It is.
And I know we've talked about me coming to your home in Maine and visiting and doing one of these live, and we still need to do that. But yeah, it's I'm happy we met on social.
Yep.
But I hate that there is a social channel for all of us, but it is really powerful, man.
It is powerful.
It bridges worlds. Yeah.
It's as powerful as you use it, because I know there's a lot of people who use it, and we were talking about this earlier, for negativity and destructive behavior and toxic patterns.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so they think it's the tool that's the bad thing. No, it's the way you're using the tool, because there's a lot of people who have forged good connections, who have created powerful business opportunities, other opportunities in their life through digital technology. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I don't even know if I'd have, I don't even know. I suppose I would still be creating films that you would have to find through a channel of stores, and I would still be, I'd write books and shoot photos, and so you'd find them in that particular manner. But yeah, it's really cool. It's very cool. And selfishly, it's funny, you always think, maybe people always think that what you're doing is okay and what others are doing is their jam, and maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. But for me, for us at Sickmanta and myself, sharing the work that we do with others and being able to write about it and give our thoughts and give our ideas is really important and really rewarding to me. But it's always kept at a certain level. That's what it's always so important to me. So
what do you mean by that?
Just the writing, like, because I'm hunting, because I'm fishing, because I'm spending time outdoors, that when I'm there, when I'm in the wild, I have a tremendous mindfulness, a tremendous presence. And so I really enjoy sharing the photos. If I go on a caribou hunt in the Arctic Circle, I can't show, no one's going to see that work unless they buy a book that I write or they buy a movie that is sitting on a shelf someplace. But having the social allows imagery from that place to come forth and people to download it, and then it allows me an opportunity to write my thoughts, and having something like hunting is so difficult to wrap your head around. Killing, and so it's just a good outlet for me to share with people far and wide, and others have used it for different things, like we just said, and to each of their own. But yeah, it's enjoyable and distracting as hell.
Yeah, well, that's actually one of the things I appreciate about you, because and there's other people in the the industry or hunting in general who I think are like you, in that your lifestyle, that's your way of life, right? And then there's other people that I see who seem to be gaming it, right? And so
there's a lot
of that, and so and it's easy to hide behind social media, and it's easy to show what you want to show and paint a story that maybe not based entirely in reality. But that's one thing I admire about you, is it looks like, okay, this is my life, and then this is a small part of it for me to show it to people.
Yeah, and it's a small part. Like, people, I'm not a guy, and there are guys out there. I'm not a guy or a girl that, there's the perception, maybe, if you look at my Instagram page, is there perception that I live in the wilderness, or that I'm in the wilderness full time, or that I'm a mountain man, or that I'm a trapper, or that. And none of that is true. I'm going on small expeditions, things that our ancestors would think are a weekend vacation. I'm going for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to the Arctic. This year I did 8 weeks in Alaska. But these are little snippets in my life that I'm enjoying, hitting the reset button for me. It's also become work, which is...
It's an amazing thing.
It's amazing. Yeah, and I was just reading a book on what really designates happiness in one's life, and finding a job that you really fills you as full as you fill it, and pushing you forward every day is a great in line with being truly happy, falling in love, having work that you intrinsically love. And so I feel very fortunate in that regard. But I don't. This is what I do, this is what I think about, this is what I live for, but it's not that I live in the wilderness, right? I'm not a mountain man, and so I don't want that misperception there. But yeah, people it's a representation that people look at social pages and they think that's how these people's lives are all the time, when the majority of us capture really magical moments, share just those, and I don't know, I go back and forth. Honestly, and so
I think when you share that more, and I tend to share a lot on social media, and when I share more, not just the victories, but also the setbacks, I think that's better in a lot of ways, because
absolutely
people see themselves in you when you mess up, right? But if all they see is wins, they can't make the connection, and you don't inspire people that way, because they think, oh, this guy's got it figured out, and what the hell's wrong with me, because I'm going through a divorce or going through financial issues, or I don't have a hobby or a job that I enjoy and find meaningful, so like there's something wrong with me. Versus, you see a guy like yourself or other people that I've had on the podcast, and yeah, you're sharing your wins, but you're also sharing the humanity of it, right? And the mistakes and the missteps.
There's so many mistakes, and it's so hard, and there are so many. I mean, I'm not laying concrete in -30 temperature like some guys have to do, but it's a lot of hard work, and it's very difficult to. You want to be there without cameras. You want to be there with people that you want to share the time with, or by yourself, and you want to just be present in the, and so involving cameras and involving microphones and things like that are really take from the experience, but it also really lifts the experience, because when we come home, we're able to share it with people. And so, we definitely celebrate our suck as well, because we make so many mistakes. It's not even funny. So many missteps. I can't even fathom. We talk about all the time, my crew and I don't have a massive, and this is something that I think we've talked about, but I don't have a high self-confidence, something I've suffered with my entire life. Like, I see people all around me, I'm like, that guy's super talented, like, why am I not super talented?
Interesting.
Because
people look at you and probably think the same thing that you think about others. Maybe this guy's super talented, he's finding his passion, he's so good at this, and so they're probably thinking the same thing you do.
So I like talking about the suffering and the missteps and the difficult days, because I think other people are having them too. I don't care how much money's in your bank account, or like you said, going through divorce or losing a loved one or something like that, are really dark days in our lives, really dark days. And I'm above all else, I'm of the idea that being mindful and being present is above all else. I don't care that we're at SHOT Show. I just want to be sitting here right now with you. We're having a conversation. This is nothing more than that, and I just want to enjoy this for every second that it is, because this is truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me. We might do this interview next year, but it won't be the same as it is right now. Absolutely. This is
an interesting way to look at it.
Truly once in a lifetime. And for my life, it might not be a long one.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I was thinking about it. My oldest son, he had an advancement in our church just recently, and I thought to myself, man, I remember bringing this kid home from the hospital. Yeah. And now here we are almost 12 years later. I'm like, gosh, I can't imagine to go to your earlier point, in a job that you hate or that you're miserable. It's just, and I've been fortunate enough, like you, to find something that's really driving me, that I find a lot of passion for and enthusiasm in. So it's
did it find you, or did you find it? Because mine found me. Kind of.
That's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't considered that. I don't like necessarily the word found, like I found it, because it almost sounds passive, as in I just stumbled upon it. I don't look at it like that. I feel like I articulated it, I developed it, I created it, but I didn't fully realize, to your point about finding it, I didn't fully realize what I had developed until I went down that path. And now, to your point, is I really feel like, and I don't share this a whole lot, but I really feel like what I'm doing now is the reason for the last 38 years of my life. Yeah. And so I do think, to your point, that it pulled me, right? It pulled me in, and I had to uncover and discover through those steps.
Same with me. People ask me all the time, hey, how did you do this? What steps did you take? Every day I get asked, what degree do I need to get in college to do what you're doing? And I just think there isn't one. Yeah. I was just hunting. I was going places and hunting because I wanted to go there and hunt. And then I'd see things. I'd go without a camera, and then I'd see things on that hunt that I'd think, oh, I want to share this with people. I want to share this with my family, with friends. So I'm coming back next year. I'm going to bring a handy cam, and then you bring a handy cam, and you're sitting there on the filming a grizzly bear, and then you go home. You watch it, and you're like, okay, next year I'm bringing a tripod. Next year I'm going to bring a tripod. And then you start doing all these things, and then I'd be at shows like this. I'd get invites from friends, and I'd just come walk around, look at the guns and bows just like everyone else. And then people would say, hey, what do you do? And so I tell them my story. I'm a biologist. I work in Alaska, and then I hunt. Oh, what do you hunt? Oh, I hunt here. Oh, that's really cool. Hey, tell my buddy over here. And then pretty soon you have a company that's like, hey, can we send you some backpacks to, for you to use? Or, hey, can we use some of your footage on a TV show that we're producing? And yeah, sure, okay. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, I meet some really talented gentlemen, and everyone kind of puts their hand in the center, and we say on three, and here we are, 10, 12 years later. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? I think people are looking for the path. Like, okay, what's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? Or what's the overall plan? Man, I didn't have a plan when I started this. You didn't have a plan. You're like, I want to share this. Here's a camera, like the cheapest camera I can find,
Not only did I not have a plan, I brought my plan, my perception, to a few friends that are in this industry, and they said, this is really cool, but it will never work.
Really?
Just so you know, so this is the model. And I listened to them. This is the model. You produce a TV show. Okay. Then you sell commercial spaces for $60,000, $100,000. If you're one of the big TV shows, you sell a commercial spot for $150,000, whatever it is. I'm making this up.
Yeah.
If you're a smaller TV show, you sell the spot for $25,000. So you go and collect all this money. Then you go around the country and you try to get your hunts for as cheap as possible. Try to build a persona and a personality for yourself, and this is how you make money. You get some free products, and you're hunting for a lifestyle. And so I brought him. I said, well, I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to be sponsored. I don't want to go, beg and borrow and steal to do this. I'd rather just do it, produce really great work, like as though we're writing a book, and let the work sell. And then we'll go do it off of things. And so, and they just said, oh, okay, well, you can, but it's not going to work. Right?
Good luck.
No one's going to buy your films. And so we gave it a shot. We said, well, let's just do one film.
Right.
We did it, and it kind of took off. And then people, and then the next one took off. And then people started asking us to do commercial work. And then, like I said, it was who I was naturally, but the job found me.
Sure. Yeah.
Just by people saying, it's just like people say, well, how do you make the next viral video? None of us know, because who knows what people are going to glom onto. People people see that kid that opens up toys and makes $30 million a year on YouTube, and people say, well, my kid opens up toys?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, awesome, but for some reason,
there's some other variable,
phonetically, how his voice sounds, how he behaves, the color of his eyes. For some reason, we've put our hooks into this kid. So and so that's what I think it is. It's you find something like your podcast and your writings and the people you surround yourself with. People want to set their hooks into that. It's enjoyable. It's entertaining. They're learning things about the world, and are probably with you because you say some kind of, I'm not going to say controversial things, but things that make the things that make people go, oh man, I'm really maybe not that good of a man, or I'm really not that good of a human being.
Well, I'm just mostly talking about myself.
I know, but that's what I mean. But people see that, like if you're like, hey, this is where I had a misstep. People are like, yeah, I've done that. Yeah, and I did it twice, in fact. So yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. I wish there was. Well, I don't know. I was going to say I wish there was a path, but I don't know if I wish there was. You have to uncover that. You have to develop. You have to articulate it. How do you find the balance when you're on a hunt and engaged this way, with being present in the hunt and the activity of what you're doing in nature and enjoying all of that, and then also wanting to share it with the world through technology, cameras, production, etc.?
Two ways, really. One is that we just try to film all the time, which is very difficult. But if you're filming all the time, it doesn't feel like there's a setup.
Right.
And like you and I doing this morning, we physically had to set this up. But if in some manner, let's just say this camera was rolling all the time or often, and let's just say we lived with these headsets on and we stopped and had a conversation right here, it would be, dare I say, a lot more of a fluid conversation and a lot less intrusive than it is you and I sitting down in these chairs,
putting these headsets on, like staged.
We sit down and we're like, okay, 3, 2,
right.
So the more we film, the more natural the presence is. It's also way more difficult, right? Because the cameras are heavy, they're out all the time, they're in the weather, we're going through a lot of media cards, we're having to download this stuff. But that is one of the ways, is just trying to capture everything. And then it's two other ways. We're looking through the lens And we're chasing that imagery of, so when you see a Dall sheep, when you see a ptarmigan, a moose, wolf, grizzly bear, if you were just there on your own and just watching it, you're almost as though you are trying to catalog that imagery, that experience as fast as possible while it's happening. You're just watching that bear, you're seeing his fur ripple in the wind, and you're seeing his big massive forearms as he like pushes down alder bushes to eat blueberries, and you're trying to take it all in as fast as possible, because you're like, I'm going to remember this the rest of my life. This is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Well, when you have a camera, you can still pour that into the camera and just get the focus right and get the colors right and get the shot lined up right and watch that bear. And sometimes we're very close, which is really rewarding, because then you're just watching it. And then when the whole thing's over with, you know, we all look at each other. Sometimes we're hugging and like, oh my word.
Like, what just happened?
But now we've got it, right? So the camera actually didn't take from our experience. The camera almost enhanced our experience, because it gave us a job to take in during the experience, and then now we get to share it with others. So not only did we were no longer passive in the engagement, we're now active in capturing, and then as far as communicating into the camera, it's as though having a buddy there and something to say. And oftentimes, I learned this recently through a book called, no, I'm not going to think of the name of it, but it's a book by Ray Dalio. Evan Hafer of Black Rifle recommended it to me.
Okay.
But anyway.
Is it Principles? Is that
Principles.
Principles? Yeah.
Principles, thank you. So in the book, he talks about how our creativity just flourishes when we're busy with another activity. You know, if we sit down with a computer, we sit down with a blank page and we're going to write a story, we just sit there and, you know, and that cursor just sits there bouncing in front of us.
Blinking, looking at you.
We're just, you know, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? But all of a sudden, you'll be walking your dog. I'll guarantee you run into this. You're doing jiu-jitsu, you're walking your dog, you're fly fishing, you're climbing a tree, whatever it is, and ideas are popping in your head.
Of course.
Yeah, so you're busy with another task. Things are able to flood into your mind. So as I'm hunting, ideas and things that I want to communicate and talk about flood into my mind, and then I'm able to just, hey, turn the camera on. And I wish I could do it without saying, hey, turn the camera on, because that right there
changes it.
That's a little snap back to reality. So when we can capture things just absolutely fluid, it's the most rewarding. But you know, sometimes you have to say, hey, I have something to say, turn the camera on or whatever, you know. But yeah, so that's how we do it. That's how we maintain that presence, is having the job of capturing that really beautiful imagery, because we get excited to share with people. One time we were filming in the Arctic, and it was pouring rain, and we had some big grizzly bears around us, and me and our director of photography, William Altman, who lives in Maine, him and I are just belly crawling all the way across this tundra, and the guy we're hunting with, his name's Lance Kronberger. He's watching us. We're a couple hundred yards away from him, and we saw this ptarmigan walking through the tundra. So we're belly crawling. It's pouring rain. We're getting soaked.
Miserable.
Yeah, we film
at the same time.
Yeah, we film it, and we come back, and he's sitting there, glass. He's like, "What were you two doing?" We go, "We're filming a ptarmigan." He said, "What? Why would you work so hard to film a ptarmigan?" It's the dumbest thing in the world I've ever heard of. So then we showed him the footage, and we're actually filming this. He's eating tundra berries, and we're watching him go down his into his crop, like through his throat. Yeah, we got so close, and we showed him. He's like, that's pretty so cool. Amazing. Yeah, he's like, that's really cool to see. So doing that task is allowing us to engage with that bird, film the imagery, and then take it to people.
I like that. I had an experience. I was telling you, I was hunting in Arizona with Brandon Lilly and some other mutual friends, and I stalked into this mule deer at 30 yards, and I had to get that close because he was over the crest of the hill.
They always are. Muleys always are.
Yeah. So he's bedded down under a tree. I got to the crest and saw him. He didn't see me. I'm sitting there at 30 yards. I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to hang out here. When he's ready to get up, he'll get up, and he'll walk one way or the other, and I'll make my shot, and I'll be well. Pops up, not real much of a warning, pops up, walks straight at me.
Oh.
And he stops at 19 yards, and I'm sat down in maybe some bushes that are, I don't know, 1.5 feet or so tall, if that.
Yeah.
And he stops at 19 yards, and no joke, for 2 minutes just stared. Him and I just stared at each other for 2 minutes. And then he turned, and when he turned, I tried to draw as low as I could. I drew, and he bolted. But that is the coolest animal encounter that I've had without completing my objective, without a successful hunt. But it was still incredible. And I immediately got done, and I'm kind of disappointed, it worked out the way it did, but still excited about it. And I'm walking down, and I get on the phone with my wife because I just wanted to share it.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to share that story. And the guy who was spotting for me, we were talking about it, and it was so cool to be able to have that experience and then want to share it with other people who you feel would appreciate and respect what it's all about.
So that's exactly it. We'd film that deer doing that, and I would be sitting there with my bow, and he'd run off. And I would just turn to the camera, and did you get, that's incredible. And then we just talk about seeing his eyes and the stare down and seeing his breath come out of his nose. And then the decision of, that's funny that he did that. I've never actually experienced. I've had him bolt out of their beds. I've had him get up and stand there and then turn around, bed back down. I've had him do basically everything other than stand up and walk straight
at me. I was like, no.
So I'm assuming you weren't looking at him when he started to stir.
I was, but the way he was, there wasn't anything that I could see that he was going to get up. Like there wasn't much of a warning for me the way that I was, because really all that I was able to see was the back of his head and his rack.
So then all of a sudden he just stood up.
All of a sudden he gets up, and I'm like, oh man, because if he would have stirred, I would have been able to draw.
Yes.
But unfortunately I didn't have that advance warning, and I felt like I was a little too close. But in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, because that's what I do. I'm like, okay, well, what did I do wrong? How can I fix it? I'm like, I wouldn't have played that any different.
No. That's just mule deer hunting. I can't even tell you. One time, William and I got on to a mule deer that was really, really big, heavy mule deer, really, really big, and we got to 19 yards. And he was bedded, same thing. He would this deer, he would dig out a bed every day underneath this big red osier dogwood bush, so you could just see the tips of his antlers.
Yeah.
And he was a massive deer. And so we got to 19 yards from him. He's right there. All he has to do is stand up. The wind's in our face, cranking. Long story short, we sat there for 5.5 hours in T-shirts and socks, freezing. This is in Alberta. And he finally the wind is just blowing. It gets lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, stops. And then our thermals drop, and he explodes from his bed. And the guy we were hunting with, he was very upset. He was basically having a temper tantrum that we didn't. He really wanted to kill this deer.
Was that a guide that you were with?
It was a guide,
okay,
yeah.
All right.
So he really wanted to kill this deer.
Yeah.
And, we were like you. Of course we wanted to be successful,
That's the point,
but
right.
we very much appreciated. It seems like this day and age we celebrate even our shortcomings as wins, and I don't want to do that, but it is basically a win. When in your life, when you are taking the time to sit 30 yards from a mule deer, and that's how you're spending your time away from your family, you're winning.
Yeah.
Whether you shoot that deer or not, you're winning. And if you think our ancestors or Native Americans got it done every time, you're absolutely nuts.
I cannot imagine. I mean, I can't do it with the technology we have,
yeah.
let alone the technology they did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hand carving arrows, breaking rocks apart to be arrowheads.
I mean, why do you think they would steer buffalo towards a giant cliff? Because it was efficient to push these things off and kill them with rocks at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's super rewarding whether it works or not.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting you were talking about sitting there for 5 hours. Last year I was at the same hunt, and we stalked this mule deer similar situation. He was bedded up under a tree, and I got down in a ravine that led right to him. And I got about 50 yards away from him, and I just sat there and I waited for him to get up, and I was going to draw and then walk out of the ravine and take my shot. Sitting there for 3.5 hours, and I had, prior to me making that initial stalk, I had dropped my bag, and it was the middle of the day, so I dropped my bag and dropped my gear, and I had my jacket on, and I'm sitting in that ravine just like in the shade. I'm like, it is so cold, but at the same time you're just sitting here and thinking, this is awesome. This is so cool. I'm just sitting here, and there's a deer right up over that ridge, and he has no idea I'm here right now. And
that's
how
the
cool
coolest
is
part.
that?
Yeah, you get to watch him kind of go through a piece of his day.
Yes.
Yeah, and when you mess up, they get to continue being deer.
Right.
Right. You have to. There has to be a little bit of a win in there as well. Like
there's that contest.
Yeah, he gets another night under the stars, and that has to be celebrated as well.
Well, I think the stakes at which hunting is, right, life and death, quite literally, is what is part of what makes it so rewarding, is that there are stakes to it. We play, a lot of the times we play in an environment, in a world where there's not a whole lot of consequences in modern society for even our missteps. Somebody's always quick to swoop us in or fix the situation. And so when you're having that immediate feedback of losing an animal or taking a misstep, the reality, or even succeeding and taking the animal's life, the reality of the consequences of what you just did is what makes it significant and meaningful and purpose-driven.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's life for us. People think that, I think oftentimes people think that there's a lot more to life than there is. I think there's a lot more simple wins in life. There's a lot more simple appreciations and engagements in our lives than we think. Like, we're in this giant room right now. There's massive companies sitting around us, billions of dollars of commerce here, but really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, does this matter?
No, it doesn't.
Right.
I assure you, nothing in here
exactly
matters.
Right.
The people in this room matter to themselves and to their families. They don't even matter that much to us. I mean, we would do something probably fantastic to go. We would go through a fantastic event to save someone's life, and I believe most of us would do that without giving it a half a second thought. But really, we are important to ourselves, we're important to our family, we're important to our children, to our girlfriends, our wives, our parents, brothers and sisters. But the simplicity of what you find in your life, the happiness that you find, it's really, really important. If you think that owning a massive company or being here and being the one that's good enough to get a badge to get in the SHOT Show, or good enough to meet somebody that you might perceive as a celebrity and you think that they have a candy-coated life, like, all of that stuff is smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Every last bit of it. I'm not telling you that money doesn't help life a little bit, or being able to buy clean, healthy food is better, or grow clean, healthy food is better than the alternative, but there are so many things in our own backyards that we can do, that we can celebrate and enjoy, that will make our lives measurably better, but yet we look right past all of this stuff and try to find something shiny in the future. We try to tell each other that, I'm more fit than you, I'm stronger than you, I'm tougher than you, I can shoot further than you, I have more money than you. My wife is hotter than your wife. Our bank is better than your bank. Look at my car, and it's literally an empty closet of boxes.
It's funny we're on this, because I was talking about this just the other day on Instagram, in fact, and I thought to myself, I don't know why I got thinking about this, but I thought, if I died today, the people who listen to this podcast would miss me for like 2 weeks. That's it. And I don't say that to make myself feel bad, or to put down people who are that's not what I'm saying. But it's funny because
they would be on to the next podcast.
That's all it would be.
In a moment.
Easily.
Some would be affected by the tragedy in a sad way. Some would say, hey, he lived his life.
Right.
Like, if I die in an airplane crash next year, I hope there's not a tear shed at whatever my funeral or celebration of life, whatever people do these days. I hope they're like, I hope when people find out that I died in an airplane crash, they go, yeah, of course he died in an airplane crash.
Makes sense.
He spends a lot of time in small airplanes.
Right.
And it's not everything's a tragedy. And just like you said, like, much of us dies with us.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and sometimes we live on in legacies. The greats live on. But, I agree with you entirely.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think we pursue these things that ultimately just don't have a whole lot of meaning and significance?
That's a good question. I don't know, because we're selfish. We want to, I think probably for an age-old, for a lifetime, for ages, we've probably collected shiny things to appear like we have maybe more than the next guy, or maybe we have this perception of value that these things are finally going to make us happy, right? I was just reading in a book too, and I'm terrible at remembering titles of books, but The Hypothesis of Happiness, I think I was reading, and he was talking about, is that right?
Or The Happiness Equation, maybe?
Maybe The Happiness Equation.
I've seen a couple titled like that.
Something like that, but the guy was saying, I can prove to you that the quadriplegic or a paraplegic, I can prove to you that a paraplegic is happier than a person that wins the lottery. I can prove it to you. And basically he was saying that if you win the lottery, it's really euphoric. It's really exciting for a year or two.
Right.
You buy the fancy house. You buy the fancy car. If you're single, you might find love with a model that's looking for a wealthy love.
Right.
So
I wouldn't say love, but some fun maybe.
Yes. So things stack up in your favor, and you're on cloud nine. I'm driving a Ferrari or whatever it is that you choose. You're living in a fancy house. You got a big piece of land, whatever. But that happiness starts to diminish immediately. Immediately, because you have everything at your fingertips that you need, and really your appreciation for your big fancy house dies a little bit every day for all of us. Like
because it's so abundant.
Yeah, and like you bought your house in Maine. It's an old. I'm assuming it's like an old dairy farm or something.
It's a hay farm, and they had what they do. It was a wagon stop essentially is what it was. People would come and they would stop for the night, and then they would go on about their way.
Okay, so I'll guarantee you that you like your house less than the day you closed on it.
I like it less than, I remember the first time I saw it, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, why don't I like this house as much as the day that we drove down that hill and saw it?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So that happens with all of us, right? If you buy a brand new pickup truck, you're like, this is the greatest truck in the world. Ask me a year from now, and it'll just be a pickup truck.
It's like, it does its job.
And so that's what he was identifying, and he said, conversely, the paraplegic, everything that he or she does in their life takes a monumental effort. I'll just break it down, but brushing their teeth, putting their shoes on, putting pants on, transferring from the bed to their wheelchair, having sex, cooking for themselves, getting to their job is massive every day. And so every day they do these little wins, and they're like, I got from the bed into my wheelchair finally on my own. Now, it might not mean the same to them once they do it for years, but there will be things in their lives always because they're challenged with how their life has turned out, either in a tragedy or a disease or a birth defect, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But they are able to celebrate wins a lot more, and their lives tend to get richer as it grows, rather than the lottery winner who diminishes as it grows. And so I read that. Absolutely. Without pause, I completely agree.
That's an interesting, I imagine too, the scarcity of that as well, right? When resources or whatever it is that you're after is scarce and you achieve it, there's a lot of excitement and gratitude, and you're just excited about it, right? That you achieved it, that you did something.
Imagine sourcing food, right? Like, I think about things all the time. Like we have, and I'm not picking on them. I don't like to pick on these groups like a lot of hunters do, but vegetarians and vegans, right? A lot less vegetarians than vegans. Veganism I don't understand them at all, zero. But you get rid of our infrastructure of stores, of us being provided for, and none of those people are vegans for a minute.
No.
As soon as you're hungry and I whack this animal on the head over here, you're the first one at the table.
Yes.
Absolutely. You're 100% in. You're the blanket of comfort and ease that we have provided for ourselves. That's allowed you to say, I'm a vegan.
I'm cool.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I am just going to do, and it doesn't exist, and it's not real. It's not real if you break it down. And so that aspect of it, and then if you think about, so I've eaten, and I'm sure you have too, I've eaten at some very fancy restaurants in my life, and either been brought out to dinners, or I've found little cafes or things like this that a piece of pie, or somebody makes you something, or you make it yourself. It's amazing. But if I sit back and think about things that I've eaten or drank in my life that really have moved me, if people ask me, if I'm in a restaurant and somebody says, hey, what's the greatest steak you've ever eaten? I have no idea, other than I'll guarantee you I killed it.
Right.
However, I remember a day that I was severely dehydrated on a backpacking hunt, severely dehydrated. And I found a cold spring of water at the end of the day at the bottom of the mountain before I got back to camp. And drinking that cold water was one of the most euphoric experiences I've ever had in my entire life. And sometimes if I can't sleep at night, I will sit back and think about finding that water. I'll literally sit back because I didn't know where my next drink was going to come from, and truth be told.
Right.
And so it was finding it, and I'll just literally take some time and think about that. And so exactly what you just said, when we have a lot provided for us, it's easy for us to say, yeah, I'll have some more or in excess and not appreciate the things that have happened. But when those things go away, then you truly find out who you are, what you're looking for, sharing with somebody, being in that element. And
yeah, I think this is the value of even just being outside, hunting, just exploring is you're voluntarily placing yourself in that hardship because it's not going to come to you by default, right? Just being comfortable is default. Yeah. Right, you're a little cold, you turn up the heater, right? You need some food. I mean, you could call in food. You want some little stupid random thing that you don't really need, you jump on Amazon, it's delivered in 24 hours. Yeah. And so we have all the luxury of modern times, and it's so convenient and easy, and we don't push ourselves or put ourselves under any stress. Man, the more that we do that, the more we appreciate how valuable the things that we have are. I remember that first deer that I shot. It was in December of 2017. And
where was it?
It was in Texas.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a rifle hunt. And it was a rifle and a bow hunt. The first day I was out there, I shot a deer with a rifle. It's funny because the first day I was out there, I shot a deer with a rifle. I think the third day I was out there, I shot one with my bow. And I'm like, this hunting thing's easy.
Yeah.
And then it all went downhill from there.
Yeah.
That's how like the hunting gods get you roped into it, right?
Yeah,
and they give you a win just enough for you to keep coming back.
Suck it away for life.
That's right.
Yeah.
But man, I remember walking up to that animal and just thinking, like how it's somber for sure, right? Because you took that animal's life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like how powerful it was. I mean, sitting down with my friends and family and consuming that deer was very rewarding. Much more rewarding than having a burger that I got at Walmart or whatever and threw it on the grill. Yeah. Much more rewarding and a whole lot better too.
Yeah. And that's the thing is when we're tricking ourselves. Like when we go on hunts, that's what I said in the beginning. The trips that I go on are a baby length compared to what our ancestors did, right? And as they were, and certainly as we've evolved from into the people that we are today, like our ancestors had to work very, very hard to get their resources, and only the strong survived, right? We all come from hunters. That's just the nature of the beast. So, but when we put ourselves in these elements of going back outside, whether it be a week-long hunt in Maine or 8 weeks in Alaska, we are rewarding ourselves, or we're seeing that sliver of being a little bit hungry and having to have a chore for literally everything that we do, whether you're getting water, whether you're getting firewood, or trying to procure meat on the hunt. And still we bring our comforts, right? We have modern tents, we have modern weapons,
clothing,
and even if you have some guys say, well, bring a trad bow. Even that, the trad bows are really amazing right now. The arrows are really amazing. Yeah, the broadheads are really amazing, and and techniques are even learned a lot more. You're not learning from another tribe. You're not sitting there trying to figure it out yourself in the woods. You have the ability to go to an instructor or go to a buddy that knows his craft and he's teaching you. And so the walls have come way, way down, but we can go into the woods and trick ourselves and see backwards a little tiny bit and appreciate those things, and we can push our bodies to a true brink. I mean, there's people that lose their lives every year hunting, and so it's a very real deal. Bears and wolves and small airplanes and drowning and hypothermia and boats capsizing. Like, this is falling through the ice. These are realities of being a hunter or fisherman, and the more you put yourself in these harsh climates, the more risk you're taking, the more opportunity it is for death to snatch you away. But that is also so rewarding for us, to fill us full, to fill our souls, to test our bodies. And the more we can do that, the more we can trick ourselves, that I just think the healthier that we're going to be. And really, if you can, you should try to incorporate into every day.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Hitting the gym, running outside, riding bike, I was about to say take your clothes off, but
sure,
yeah,
throw that in there.
Get rid of your jackets and run outside in a light base layer and feel the cold. Test yourself. Do some of these things that are going to invigorate your body and you as a human being, and I think you'll live a lot more positive of a life.
Well, you will. You just appreciate more. You'll feel better about yourself because you did something difficult. The other day, it started to snow the night before, and I was thinking, oh, this is good. I'm not going to go outside. I'm just going to hunker down inside.
Start a fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I'm like, no, I'm going to go take advantage of this. So I put some layers on. My son came out with me, put the snowshoes on, and we walked laps. We have some property. We did about 3 miles in the snow.
Absolutely.
It was coming down, and, it was cold, and our legs were tired. It wasn't, like, pleasurable necessarily, but at the same time, it's like, man, even out there, you're like, this is so fulfilling, so rewarding. And then you get done, and you're like, I feel good about myself because I did something today.
Yeah, that was better than hunkering in, and hunkering in is fun.
Right, there's a place for that.
Yeah, hunkering is fun, and baking a pie and starting a fire and either watching a movie or reading a book with your family, whatever it is. But yeah, I agree with you. I literally snowshoe at home every day. I'll snowshoe 5 to 7 miles every day.
Is that right?
Yep. And I'm just walking my dogs, but it's something that I live on a river that has really tall bluffs. So I just go up and down the bluffs, up and down the ravines. I'll walk down the ice of the river. I'm checking things out. I'm looking at the swans and the geese, deer, turkeys, and it's just super. And I literally can. You know, people always want to go to far-off places, but I literally can trick myself into feeling like I'm in the middle of the wilderness.
Easily.
And I'm in my backyard.
Yeah.
I'm walking down the St. Croix River, and I'm just enjoying the cold. And sometimes I'll go out and walk my dogs. It's 30 below zero, and I see them. They're all hunkered up, you know, and they're walking on the trail too. And I literally just bought a fat tire bike the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm not going to drive my truck to the office anymore. I'm just going to ride my bike to the office. I got the tires studded up, and and I'm just I want to ride in the snow and the sleet and the ice, and I just want to get to work and feel alive and not sit in my truck and just do a little wins throughout the day just to keep testing myself.
Yeah, that's powerful. How do you strike the balance between you wanting to be outdoors and hunting and doing your thing, and then your other obligations, family obligations, business, et cetera, et cetera?
It's wicked. Like, people think I hunt for a living. Nothing could be further from the truth. You know, I own a production company, Sick Manta. We do work for Shields, we do work for Benelli, we do work for a number of different companies and companies that healthcare groups. We do work for, we might be filming a doctor sitting on the corner of a desk.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know
and
that.
So we'll do work for. If somebody calls us to hire us to do commercial work, to shoot photographs, whatever it is, tell a story, that's what we're really hired for, is to tell a story.
Tell the story.
Yeah, we're storytellers. And so even when we do 30-second spots, that's what we're hired to do, right? We work for PSC, we work for a number of different companies. And so the work-life balance is always, more days than not, my alarm goes off at 4 a.m. And it's not that I'm tougher than you. There's a lot of guys that sleep in till 9 and still live extremely fulfilled lives.
Yeah,
but
I don't think you have to wake up at 4 a.m.
No, but
if that's your thing, great. But
yeah, for me, 4 a.m. allows me to get my workout in, and then to get to the office and get X, Y, and Z done, and still be able to shoot my bow and sit down and write a little bit and read a little bit. But it is balancing. It is balancing being gone, because I need to be gone to fill my mind, fill my soul, and to have something to talk about and write about. I need to be gone. I need to chase these things, whether it be in my backyard or the Arctic Circle. And so it's a constant yin and yang.
Right.
And the more work that comes in, the busier we are, the more stressed we are. Stressed. I hate that word. I say it all the time, but that's the reality of it.
Why do you hate that word?
Because I think even just saying it, it kind of
brings it in.
Yeah, like
invites it,
binds you up. Like, hey, I'm stressed. Oh, I wish I didn't say that. I wish I could say I'm really happy. I'm just challenged today.
Which is good. That's a positive, right? Challenging.
Yeah, just being challenged. Yeah, and so because stress makes me feel like I'm crumbling to the pressure,
right?
And really, I want to face it. I want to face the pressure, right? And so, having that balance is difficult. I want to make sure that I get my workouts in every day or whatever I'm doing. And even if I'm going to miss my workouts, okay, well then I'm going to get my snowshoeing in, and maybe I'll stop and do push-ups every so often along the trip. And funny, I've had guides and outfitters that I've hunted with. They also I'm on a sheep hunt. We're on the top of a mountain, and I'm doing push-ups. And they're like, "What are you doing? Why are you burning more calories?"
Yeah, I'm sure.
I just want to feel. I just want to move my body and do this and increase my strength throughout the hunt rather than wither throughout the hunt. And use my calories for things to actually build my body. And so, but yeah, it's difficult, man. I mean, how do you do it? How do you balance it?
I actually try to stay home a lot. Like, I try to be very present.
See, I do too. When I'm home, I try to be home.
Yeah. I turned down a lot of things. I've really throttled back in the business. My father-in-law just this last week, him and his wife were in town, and they stayed with us, and he was asking me about what's next. What are you springboarding into with your business? And I said, I'm not.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Because I've got 4 kids at home,
yeah.
and I'm not looking to do that right now. I'm looking in my business and organization and in this movement to create something that allows me to leverage my time so that I can be fully present for the next 15 to 16 years until the kids are gone. And then, we'll see where it goes from there. But very similar. Time management has always been something that's worked well for me.
And that's tricky, isn't it?
Oh, man. Well, especially as you become more in demand, if that's the right term. Mm-hmm. People want your attention. They want to present opportunities, and you have to get good at saying no and understanding, okay, does this fit into what it is I'm trying to accomplish, or does this detract me from it? And I feel like I've gotten fairly good at acknowledging and recognizing what is something that's moving me towards my goals and ambitions, and something that would pull me away from it. Same.
I'm the same. We get contacted often from different companies that want to do this and this, and it's either on the commercial side of things, either the budgets aren't there, and we just need to say, oh, thank you, we're not the company for you, but no, thank you, and or opportunities through me as a hunter are far and wide, and I just have to.
Oh, I bet.
And for me, with guys are like, hey, have you ever hunted New Zealand? And I haven't, and I've been invited a million times to go hunt New Zealand, and they say, I just met a young man just now. He invited me to go to Africa, and I get.
Was these like the couple of guys you were talking with earlier?
Yes. Yeah. And so he's like, yeah, you got to come to South Africa, and I would love to go to South Africa, but I need to focus on the things that I need to focus on, and I really thrive in North America, and so that's where I really. So I think if I want to hunt for 12 weeks this year or 16 weeks this year, or whatever it is that I'm going to hunt this year, I really want to pick the places that I really want to spend time.
Right.
And so, but yeah, that's when you're gone and working, be gone and working. When you're home and present, be home and present. But I still, even when I'm home, I try to get outside, try to do things for myself, because no matter what, being a husband, father, or even if you're not those things, whether you are or you're not, take care of yourself first.
Yes.
And then you will be a better father or a better individual, a better boyfriend, better husband, whatever it is. You have to look yourself in the mirror first. You have to move your body first, eat the best you can first, and challenge yourself, and then you'll be able to give so much more to those around you.
Which is funny, because that's a little counterintuitive, right? A lot of guys will think, and we've been conditioned this way, and it's not all bad. It's noble to want to serve others, to want to place your family first, to want to help other people that you may not even know to a degree. But if you take that time for yourself at the expense of a little bit more time with your family and other people that you care about, that time that you do have, that smaller amount of time you do have with your family, is going to be much more effective. It's going to be much more enjoyable and significant and meaningful.
Way more.
Because, and the other thing too is, let's say you invest all of your time in pouring into others. Again, noble, wonderful. You're going to burn out.
Yeah.
If you don't ever place yourself as a priority.
That's right.
And so it's cool. You're going to be doing that for a year, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're going to lose. That's probably going to lose some of its value, just like we talked before. And spreading your time out and doing the things that you enjoy, but also doing the things that are going to move you. I just think it's literally the most important thing.
Yeah.
Working out, and I'm not talking about being a musclehead. I'm not talking about the supplements. I'm not talking about all the photos and this perception of fitness these days, but I'm talking about moving your body, whether it be snowshoeing, riding a bike, shooting your bow, pushing weights, kettlebells, running, mountain climbing, mountain climbers in your living room, burpees, whatever it is. Like it's going to push you so much further, and it really is. To me, that's my number one. Food and exercise. Yeah, it's the number one.
Yeah, I mean, those are such great investments to make in yourself. It is an investment, meaning you have to give up something to get that return.
4 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want to be in bed too.
Right.
Yeah.
What do your workouts consist of when you're not moving, snowshoeing, being outside doing the thing? What are your workouts consist of?
For the last several years, I've used a friend of mine who's a trainer. His name's Sam Topping. I've met Sam in the morning I drive to a gym in downtown Minneapolis. It's an inner city gym, and it's just been a really rewarding place to work out. You're kind of amongst lack of a better term. This will paint the picture. This is not what I mean, but basically I'm working out amongst thugs every morning, right? Like these guys are former gang members or maybe even current gang members. I don't know. And,
right.
But really good people. Like these guys that I'm working out with are really good people, and it's just nice to see a little bit of, and I mean this as a loosely fit term, but to see a little bit of color in your life. Like these are not people that I run into on sheep hunts. These are not people I run into at the Whitetail Woods, or and so it's just nice to have a little diversity in life, and so I've done that. But I'm moving towards right now. I'm moving towards a home gym, and so our friend at Sorenex, I've been buying stuff from Bert.
Oh, have you?
From
cool.
Yeah, and so they've sent me.
Good.
They gifted me. It was very, very nice of them. They gifted me some kettlebells, some center mass bells, and a battle rope, and pole sled, things like that. So they've given me some stuff to start building my home gym, and in fact I just talked to Brandon yesterday. He sent me a weighted vest because I want to start wearing 50 pounds of weight when I do my snowshoeing at night.
Oh yeah, that's what I did the other day. I've got a 40-pound vest, I think it is, and I threw that vest in, and then threw the.
And how was it?
It was awesome.
Yeah, so that's.
I used to weigh 235 pounds.
Okay.
So it's 50 pounds more than I weigh today.
Yeah.
And so it's when you think about having like a 45-pound plate, like you pick that up, it's not insignificant.
No.
And I'm like, well, no wonder I was always so tired.
Yeah,
I was
no wonder my
this
knees
thing
hurt.
around where I couldn't sleep, or I had sleep apnea because there's a roll of fat around my neck trying to suffocate me at night. Like, no wonder nothing's working correctly.
That's what I mean. Yeah, and so I'm building that home gym right now, and I'm going to try to do more movements.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just talking about Brandon about this yesterday, and I'm really excited because he was showing me some of the movements that he's doing.
Yeah.
Because he used to be.
Oh, he's a huge guy, anyways.
Ox, literally lift a car ox, and so when I first met him, which was not that long ago, he was massive.
Yes, he's leaned out a lot.
He seems to be half the size to me in the best way.
A great way, and he's still big. But he looks healthy.
Absolutely. And so it seemed like all of his movements were at a 90-degree angle, like most of us are in the gym with squats or this and that. And then now he's using kettlebells, and he's using movements that almost replicate like a strand of DNA, right? He's doing these twists, he's doing these lifts and everything. He's moving his entire body now. So I'm going to start incorporating that into my workouts and doing a little bit more of a movement-based that will tie in better to who I am, my lifestyle. What's going to stop me from falling off a cliff? Really being able to use the muscles that extend from the outside of my foot all the way up my leg, all the way up my rib cage to my pecs, to my back, my shoulders. Should I canter my weight on a cliff with my backpack, and I need to use all of those muscles to stop that weight from moving and bring it back to center or against the cliff wall. And so those are things that I want to do. And
I like that you're talking about that, because a lot of the times what we do is we see what other people are doing, and we're like, oh, we're supposed to do it like that.
Yeah.
And yet the way that individual's doing it works for them.
Yeah.
Based on their lifestyle and their goals and ambitions, but it doesn't necessarily fit into what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And we run into that a lot. You start living for somebody else's life, or you start living their goals, and you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm not happy. Yeah, well, you're living somebody else's life.
And then you start doing this over here, and then you go over here and do this, and that ties back to our. And I'm not patting us on the back, because I'm sure you suck at plenty of things, and I know that I do. But that's where our jobs have come from, right? You find something. Like I was just talking to this young man that works for Eagle. I don't recall his name, but he fell in love with a sewing machine. So a lot of people would say, you design backpacks, dude. You design military backpacks, and you work for a military company, and you get to come to the SHOT Show, and that's so badass. How did you do that? What do I? And he fell in love with an old sewing machine.
Right.
So he fell in love with an industrial old sewing machine. So he started sewing because it was more important for him to fix his old tattered backpack than to go buy a new one. He couldn't afford a new one. I'm making up his story a little bit because we talked a little bit about this.
Sure.
So he fixed his backpack, and now he's sewing for a major brand in the military complex. And so that's how these things happen, right? And so it falls back to exactly what we were talking about. And then we're focused on those things, and we know we love these things, so that has become our jobs. And so that's what. Don't chase what others are doing. Learn from others.
Right, sure,
certainly.
No doubt.
I was at Sorenex headquarters with Bert and Brandon, and Brandon was running us through workouts in our blue jeans in the lobby.
Right.
And
isn't that an incredible gym they've got right there?
I told Bert, I was like so impressed with. We flew down there to meet with those guys, and we walked in, and I was just like, this is 1,000,000% better and more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, no doubt.
Because I see muscle heads at my gym.
Yes.
And I just think you guys they're all very nice guys, because I don't want them to rip my head off tomorrow, but they are all morons. They are giants. They are taking so many drugs, and I think it's just all vanity. Right? I mean, these guys are massive.
Yeah.
But they can do literally nothing.
Right.
They can. There's a black guy at my gym. He's a super awesome guy. If you watch him try to take his T-shirt off, he has to get help.
Because he has that no mobility.
His lats are, and he's a giant man anyway, but his lats are so big he can't physically pull a T-shirt off. Either his wife has to help him or somebody at the gym has to help him get dressed and undressed.
Yeah, talk about a subpar standard of living.
Mm-hmm. But but that's the route that those guys chose. But I urge you, you're a human being.
Mm-hmm.
We all have various beliefs of where we've come from, but we have evolved into the bodies that we're in now. And now this is not really entirely true, but this is what I mean. We're de-evolving to me. We're deconstructing ourselves. We were building muscles for certain reasons. We developed the brain for certain reasons. Right. We have these thumbs for certain reasons. We don't have fur. We don't have fangs. We don't run particularly fast. We don't see particularly good. We can't fly. We can't breathe underwater. We're basically, in all practical purposes, food for another animal.
Yeah, great point.
However, we figured out a way to start a fire. We
Yeah.
figured out a way to design tools. We figured out a way to communicate with you, and you say, you go around this side of the rock, I'm going to go around this side of the rock, and should we work together, we can take down this animal that is far superior to us, and how he is, let's call it, quote-unquote, designed, how he has evolved into the being that he is. And so we've developed these big brains and these thumbs that allow us to do things and sit in buildings like this and organize our thoughts and have feelings and compassion and have these complexities. But really, we need to back off of the trend where we're going, and we need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and realize that, okay, what do I need to do to my quadriceps, my biceps, my pecs, my abs, my back, my lats? What do I need to do to my brain? What do I need to do to my heart, to my lungs? How do I become smarter? People say, like, your mom or dad will say, you can do anything you want. They're lying to you. You can't.
Right. No.
You literally can't. I could apply to Harvard Medical School for the next 900 years, and my letter of redirection will come in a week.
Yes.
And say, thank you for applying.
Thanks.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And so, but what we can do is, if we push as hard as we freaking can, if we fight like hell, if we realize that we are absolutely warriors, we'll get way further than if we didn't.
Yeah.
And that's really, when your parents tell you can do anything you put your mind to, that's what they mean.
Sure.
Like, if you want to go to Harvard Medical School, but you're not very good at time management, you don't have the IQ, you don't have the chops to not throw up when you see a bunch of blood.
Right.
If
Right.
you don't have that stuff, but you still want to go to Harvard Medical School and you bust your ass in school to get that far, you're still very likely to fall short of Harvard Medical School, and that's where everyone in this world goes, I'm a failure.
Right.
I failed. But really, you're way further.
Oh, yes.
The books you've read, the things you've done, you trying to set up your schedule throughout the day to get through your studies, you're way further than you would have been otherwise, and the job that you procure because of it will be 3 times the job that you would have got otherwise if you were just like, you know what, I can't get into Harvard Medical School, not even going to try.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what most people do. And they make excuses, and people make excuses for them.
Yes.
Right, that's the hard thing is
we want to protect each other.
We do. And really consumed with the way people feel, right? And you should be aware of how people feel.
Yeah,
I'm not talking
jerk.
about running around offending people everywhere you go just for the sake of doing it, but feelings is just one factor. Right? We need to take other consideration. I, for example, with my children, it's like, yeah, I have to be aware of how they feel, but I also need to tell them the truth so that they have that foundation of truth so that they can grow. And sometimes that is at odds with their feelings because they might be upset or down because I may have said something or gave them a little bit of a critique. But that is more important than worrying about their feelings in all circumstances.
It really is, because it'll get them to be a little bit tougher, right? You know, and that's it's the right way. I'm convinced. I'm positive it's the right way. It's how we've evolved as human beings, and it's how other animals have evolved, and it's the harder life is, the better and how you respond, the better your life is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what projects do you have coming up? I know you've got a couple of things coming up, and you've got a couple of films and things you're working on. I'd love to hear about those things.
Yep. So we have our next big film will come out. We actually did a project for the first time ever. We were hired by Benelli, USA, to do a full-scale film. They released 3 new. I think it's the first time that they've ever released 3 new products in a single year. And so new to their line, they've launched a bolt-action rifle, which they've never built before. It's called the Lupo, which is Italian for wolf. And then they make an over-under in a 12-gauge format. This year they're making it a 20-gauge format, and then they have a new coating for their waterfowl guns. Anyway, they hired Sigmanta, our production company, to do a full-scale film to help them introduce those products to consumers, which is incredibly rewarding, because they didn't want any information about the guns to be in the film. No infomercial, no call out to Benelli. They literally said, Donnie, crew, we want you guys to go to Alaska for several weeks, use the products, abuse the products, tell the story as you would, as though Benelli has no part in it whatsoever. And we did, and it came out really badass.
Awesome.
The teaser's playing in the Benelli booth while we're here at SHOT. That's why I'm here at SHOT.
Yeah.
And the film will come out in August, and it will be somewhere around an hour in length.
Awesome.
And we spent 2 weeks out on the Aleutian chain, namely Adak Island, but in the Aleutian chain, hunting and filming and fishing and just kind of celebrating what is the bolt-action rifle, the 30-06. That's the caliber that I was using. And then the animals in the wilderness areas in that place. So it's going to be, that's a wild place. One of the more dangerous places I've ever spent time.
Is that right?
Because of the wind and the water.
Oh yeah.
Massive swells. Massive swells. A couple of times we spent time with very, very capable captains. Aleutian Outfitters is their company, I believe. But we spent time with very, very capable sea captains. But there were a few times that I thought,
this is it.
This is what it looks like.
Really?
This is what it looks like.
Holy cow.
Around the island, around the north side of the island, it is, and I might get these numbers wrong, but it's 24,500 feet deep.
Right.
It's the second deepest trench in the world.
Okay.
And it comes up to, I think, 200 feet deep very, very quickly.
Holy cow.
Over like a half a mile. And so the waves are incredibly disorganized, and they're sharp at the top. They don't have a true crest like normal.
Sure.
Yep. So normally you get a big swell and you just put the bow of the boat into it and you just ride the swell out.
Yeah.
This is as though you would take something in your bathtub and just kind of plunge it around. So all the waves are broadhead sharp, and while we're facing this wave in front of us, another wave, literally a 20-footer, is crashing over the boat or rolling the boat, and we're skidding down this one. It was very. This is dramatic to say, but it was very The Perfect Storm-esque from that movie. Like, literally the vessel we're in skidding down the waves, other waves crashing into us. I can't even tell you, dozens of times I watched our cameras fly across the cabin of the boat. Dozens of times I watched the captain of the boat fly out of his captain's chair and land on the other side of the cabin. We lost engines
for
in
him?
it. He is a very capable man. But,
he'd have to be.
But he said this was, we were in the top 5 of the worst nights he has spent.
Holy cow.
In the Bering Sea. Yeah, it was very, as a friend of mine called it, it was very sporty.
Sporty.
Very sporty.
That's a nice way to say it.
When we would get back at night, you were thankful.
You're like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My buddy just bought a boat. He bought an outfit, I guess, in Alaska fishing.
Oh.
And he bought a boat, and he's like, I'm going this summer to learn from the guy I bought it from, and he's going to teach me how to ride through this stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, he's like, do you want to come? I'm like,
you don't.
Why don't you get your feet under your fins or whatever under you first, and then I'll come out. But I don't want to go learn with you now.
No,
I'm good.
This was gnarly. It was, and you're helpless too, right?
Yeah.
And
what can you do?
When we even asked him, the gunnels of the boat were rather low, so they're probably like mid-thigh, and we're stumbling back and forth, and he would tell us, literally the boat, he would warn us, he's like, we might capsize and go all the way underneath, and then we have to wait for the next wave, and it's going to right us.
What?
Yeah.
So you're like, hold on to something?
Yeah, so he's like, you got to get inside. You got to be inside, because if you're outside, we'll never find your body. And he's even saying, so I asked him later that day, or that night, late that night, I said, a couple of times we would stumble and catch each other. But I asked him, so what if somebody would have went over? And he said, basically, he's like, we call the Coast Guard because it'd be very difficult for us to even turn the boat around in this swell to even find their bodies. Like, they're not going to live, so we'd literally just be looking for their body.
That's crazy.
It was gnarly, but the film is going to be beautiful.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's going to be. It'll be really nice. And then we have several other films, as they say, in the can. We have probably 4 or 5 that are ready to be produced.
Yeah.
But our commercial work, our client work, comes first over our own personal work.
Sure.
However, we're trying to create work balance, right? Because people ask us all the time, when's the next film? When's the next art coming out? That we consider our films to be our art form. So when's the next art coming out? So we're trying to create this balance of where, okay, we'll sign up for X amount of commercial work, and then we will.
These guys, they're listening to audio. There's a guy who's literally standing in front of our camera right now. Anyways, proceed.
Awesome.
That was amazing.
That was really good. And so we will, we want to create this balance where we're taking on so many commercial projects, but we're still able to create at least a film in a year, and then we have a bunch of shorts that we want to come out with. So we have a lot of stuff that I think is very pretty, and once we put music to it, edit it, color it, write to it, I think it's going to be really moving work. And so we just want to keep that work coming out every year, because it's important for us to share that with our audience, and it's also important for our commercial clients to see new work in that realm, because it inspires them to then do things with their companies like Benelli and things like that. So it opens up more doors for all of us, and super rewarding to share with people.
Oh, man, I can't tell you, because I watched The Other Side and some of the other work that you guys have done, and it's absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we'll make sure everybody knows where to go so they can sync it up and check it out. Let me ask you, I asked you this the first time we had a conversation, but what does it mean to be a man?
I answered it. I remember how I answered it the first time, and I think it's I said that we were designed to be warriors, and we need to be mindful of that, and to extend on that, I think people would do very well to, as a man, would do very well to be more mindful, just to understand who they are, understand what is very, very close to them. People, as we discussed, things that are far away from us seem really interesting. A woman, a new job, a fancy car, a bigger house, a long away vacation, when in reality, the mindfulness of, I think, what is entirely close to you, your family, your very, very close friends, the home you live in now, the yard that your house resides in, wherever it is that you are immediately, start appreciating those things that are very, very close to you, and that you can see very, very near, that you can get very, very close to and see detail of. And I just thinking, being really mindful that every second that clicks off, we are trending towards, this term of entropy, this continued state of disorder, right? We are dying right now.
Right.
We want to say we're living, but the reality is we're dying. This table is rotting. This carpet is breaking down. These lights, everything here is in a state of decay. Very, very slowly, but all of this is in a state of decay. Realize that. Be mindful of that as a man, and understand that you are a fighter. I don't care who you are. You can do more than you're doing now, and you will be better for it.
It's powerful, man. That's unique, too. I don't know if we've ever heard anything quite like that. But that makes sense. It's like, appreciate what's there, what's in front of you, what's right here.
What's closer to you is more important than what's far away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just where you place that emphasis.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, how do we connect with you?
You can find our stuff on Instagram, Donnie_Vincent, DONNIE_VINCENT, and then DonnieVincent.com is where we sell our films. We are getting all of our films, and I can't wait. They're all going to get on iTunes.
Awesome.
Starting in like March or April, something like that. So they'll all, right now we have a great platform to buy DVDs. We have a horrible platform to buy mobile downloads.
Right,
but once it's on iTunes,
it'll be easy.
Seamless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's where I'll be.
Well, I'd encourage the guys to go check out the films. They won't be disappointed.
I appreciate it, man.
Donnie, I appreciate
really
our friendship. Appreciate all the insight. It's always fun to talk with you and get some new insight from you. And, man,
Thanks.
I really value our conversations.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Let's
brother.
go hunting, and
I'd love to.
And let's get me to Maine.
Let's do it. Open invite to Maine.
Well, I'll be there anyway. I have to go up there to see William Altman, and we're going to go duck hunting, fishing, diving, whatever. So
do it all.
Awesome.
Yeah. Let me know when you're there, and we'll schedule it. You can come stay with us.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it.